Welcome to EdBuzz. For our topic today, it will be all about ecological literacy from Group 4.
Human activities, from pollution to overpopulation, are driving up the Earth's temperature and fundamentally changing the world around us. The main cause is a phenomenon known as the greenhouse effect. Gases in the atmosphere, such as water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and chlorofluorocarbons, let the sun's light in, but keep some of the heat from escaping, like the glass walls of a greenhouse. The more greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, the more heat gets trapped, strengthening the greenhouse effect and increasing the Earth's temperature. Human activities, like the burning of fossil fuels, have increased the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere by more than a third since the Industrial Revolution. The rapid increase in greenhouse gases in the atmosphere has warmed the planet at an alarming rate. While Earth's climate has fluctuated in the past, atmospheric carbon dioxide hasn't reached today's levels in hundreds of thousands of years. Climate change has consequences for our oceans, our weather, our food sources, and our health. Ice sheets, such as Greenland and Antarctica, are melting. The extra water that was once held in glaciers causes sea levels to rise and spills out of the oceans, flooding coastal regions. Warmer temperatures also make weather more extreme. This means not only more intense major storms, floods, and heavy snowfall, but also longer and more frequent droughts. These changes in weather pose challenges. Growing crops becomes more difficult. The areas where plants and animals can live shift, and water supplies are diminished. In addition to creating new agricultural challenges, climate change can directly affect people's physical health. In urban areas, the warmer atmosphere creates an environment that traps and increases the amount of smog. This is because smog contains ozone particles, which increase rapidly at higher temperatures. Exposure to higher levels of smog can cause health problems such as asthma, heart disease, and lung cancer. While the rapid rate of climate change is caused by humans, humans are also the ones who can combat it. If we work to replace fossil fuels with renewable energy sources like solar and wind, which don't produce greenhouse gas emissions, we might still be able to prevent some of the worst effects of climate change.
Hello everyone, a pleasant morning to each and every one of you. This is our show, EdBuzz. We are now at a critical point with many environmental issues such as climate change and rampant environmental destruction. Every day, our environment gets worse, and it causes a lot of problems for both animals and humans. Some would say this might be the effect of globalization. Some say human beings are the ones destroying the environment. In this lesson, we will know our roles in protecting and rehabilitating the environment and ecosystem. Please help me welcome my future co-educators on discussing this topic. So first, we have here Mr. Alba to explain what ecological literacy is all about.
Thank you for that, Mr. Palak. So, good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's feeling good. So, allow me to explain what is ecological literacy means. Ecological literacy is the ability to understand the natural system that make life on Earth possible. Ecological literacy is meant to enable conscious and participant citizens to make informed decision or take action on environmental issues. The ecological literacy was coined by David W. Orr in 1989 in his essay entitled Ecological Literacy. Orr indicated that knowing, caring, and practical competence from the foundation for ecological literacy. He pointed out that the root of the environmental crisis is the individual's inability to think about ecological patterns, systems of causations, and long-term effects of human actions. According to Mina and Allison, ecological literacy refers to an individual's understanding not only of ecological concept but also of his or her place in the ecosystem.
Interesting. So Miss Pao and Miss Joshua, would you mind telling us what makes one into becoming an ecological literate person?
According to Dr. Tompok of Lakehead University, he characterized an ecologically literate person of the 21st century as a responsible, lifelong learner who strives to improve the human condition and the environment within the context of self, human groups, the biosphere, and the ecosphere.
In 1992, Orr also said that the ecologically literate person understands the dynamics of the environmental crisis, which includes an understanding of how people have become so destructive. Therefore, identifying school students' ecological literacy levels is a necessary step in investigating their behavior, attitudes, sensitivity, and behavioral intention. In order to create awareness among students, it is important to foster correct knowledge to ensure a positive approach to the environment. That is according to Harris et al. In 2006. Kayoglu in 2009 also stated that positive attitudes and values toward the environment occur with good knowledge. Developing environmentally responsible behavior requires correct knowledge about climate change, the cause of global warming, carbon emissions, and carbon footprint, according to Ko and Chi in 2009. That's all. Thank you.
So Michelle, please tell the audience what are the characteristics of one.
The ecologically literate person, in order to achieve the aforementioned ultimate goal, should become an inquirer who actively secures the basic skills and knowledge in order to carry out ecological responsibilities. This also enables her to reach her own potential and place in the physical and natural environment.
A reflective learner who understands the value and limitations of the human knowledge, the power and limitations of the natural world, the role of limitation in real-life pursuits, and the role of self as it is manifested in one's personal narrative.
Intelligently self-directed, who engages in self-appraisal, set new learning objectives, develop plans to achieve those objectives, carries out those plans in a flexible inquiry-directed manner, and reflects on the whole process. Morally responsible, who governs with precepts, responsibility seeking justice and equality for all, that maintains harmonious relationships. Ecologically responsible, who embodies ecological ideals in daily life. Seeks self-transcendence, who moves beyond the limitations of personal ego by identifying with human groups, past and future, flora and fauna, ecosphere, transcends the individual life in scope and time.
I see. Those are some qualities indeed. Miss Pao, might I ask, how about ecoliteracy? How do we develop our ecoliteracy?
There are 5 ways to develop ecoliteracy. Number 1, develop empathy for all forms of life. At the basic level, all organisms, including humans, need food, water, space, and conditions that support dynamic equilibrium to survive. By recognizing the common needs we share with all organisms, we can begin to shift our perspective from a view of humans as separate and superior to a more authentic view of humans as member of the natural world. From that perspective, we can expand our circles of empathy to consider the life of the other life forms, feel genuine concern about their well-being, and act on that concern. Number 2, embrace sustainability as a community practice. This means that organisms do not survive in isolation. Instead, the web of relationships within any living community determine its collective ability to survive and thrive. By learning about the wondrous ways that plants, animals, and other living things are interdependent. So students are inspired to consider the role of interconnectedness within their communities and see the value in strengthening those relationships by thinking and acting cooperatively. Number 3, make the invisible visible. It assists students in recognizing the myriad effects of human behavior on other people and the environment. The impacts of human behavior have expanded exponentially in time, space, and magnitude, making the result difficult, if not impossible, to understand fully. So using tools to help make the invisible visible reveals the far-reaching implication of human behavior and enable us to act in more life-affirming ways. Number 4, anticipated unintended consequences. No matter how adept we are at applying the precautionary principle and systems thinking, we will still encounter unanticipated consequences of our actions. Building resiliency, for example, by moving away from monocrop agriculture or by creating local, less centralized food systems or energy networks is another important strategy for survival in these circumstances. So we can turn to nature and find that the capacity of natural communities to rebound from unintended consequences is vital to survival. Number 5, understand how nature sustains life. Life is imperative for students to cultivate a society that takes into account future generations and other forms of life. Nature has successfully supported life on Earth from billions of years. Therefore, by examining the Earth processes, we learn strategies that are applicable to designing human endeavors.
I understand now. So ecological literacy is all about the knowing, about gathering knowledge, to know how to know, and to be informed. Then comes ecoliteracy. It is about the doing. It is to put what you know into practice, to apply your gathered knowledge into ways or techniques you can apply into practice. So let us now proceed to knowing and doing. Let us welcome Miss Sarno and Miss Sale.
Good morning, everyone. Allow me to share some information about the 3 R's and how they relate to eco-literacy. The 3 R's are the reduce, recycle, and reuse. The term reduce aims at lowering the usage of natural resources to avoid wastage. For example, using refillable water bottles instead of buying individual plastic bottles of water, like Nature Spring, Absolute, and others. This will help prevent pollution, limit the amount of waste going to landfill, preserve natural resources, and save money. Next is the term recycle, which aims at using the discarded items by recycling them. For example, by recycling paper and plastic, you could use them for artwork purposes. By this, you're not only preventing pollution but also giving garbage a new life and also lowering your expenses. Lastly is the term reuse, which means using the same thing repeatedly. For example, by using an eco bag which can be used many times because of its durability, you save all of the energy that would be needed to remanufacture products. This also reduces pollution and waste by reducing the need for raw materials, which saves water and forest supplies.
Trivias about the energy sources found in the Philippines. There are 2 types of energy sources, namely renewable and non-renewable energy. Renewable energy generated from sources that naturally replenish themselves and never run out. The following are solar energy, wind energy, hydroelectric power plant, geothermal power plant, and biomass energy. On the other hand, non-renewable energy comes from sources that will run out or will not be replenished in our lifetime or even in many lifetimes, such as fossil fuels like coal, petroleum, and natural gas. Regardless of the source of energy, demand is growing, with the global population expected to increase by about 2 billion over the next 2 decades, and with improving standards of living, it is estimated that by 2040, electricity generation is expected to increase by 52%. The Philippines derives most of its electricity generation from coal. In 2021, fossil fuel accounted for 47.6% of total electricity generation in the country. Natural gas made up another 10.7%. That year, approximately 76% of the country's electricity production was sourced from fossil fuels. Electricity is taking on an ever more central role in the lives of consumers, and for an increasing number of households, it promises to become the energy source on which they rely for all their everyday needs, such as in their mobility, cooking, lighting, heating, and cooling. The reliability and affordability of electricity is set to become even more critical to all aspects of people's lives and well-being. As an individual, we can conserve or decrease our energy consumption just as simply as turning off lights or appliances when we do not need them. We can also use energy-intensive appliances less by performing household tasks manually, such as hang-drying our clothes. Instead of putting them in the dryer or washing dishes by hand, we can buy things that are rechargeable through solar power, like flashlights that have a small solar panel installed in them. That's all. Thank you.
Another interesting thing is about the design inspired by nature. Ecoliteracy is applying the understanding to redesign organizations, communities, businesses, and societies. A good example would be biomimicry, like the Eastgate Mall in Zimbabwe, designed to be ventilated and cooled by entirely natural means, inspired by the termite hills found in Africa that have a natural cooling system. The Eastgate Center uses less than 10% of the energy of a conventional building its size. These efficiencies translate directly to the bottom line. Eastgate's owners have saved $3.5 million alone because of an air conditioning system that did not have to be implemented. Impressive. Another interesting thing is about the design inspired by nature. Ecoliteracy is applying the understanding to redesign organizations, communities, businesses, and societies. A good example would be biomimicry, like the Eastgate Mall in Zimbabwe, designed to be ventilated and cooled by entirely natural means, inspired by the termite hills found in Africa that have a natural cooling system. The Eastgate Center uses less than 10% of the energy of a conventional building its size. These efficiencies translate directly to the bottom line. Eastgate's owners have saved $3.5 million alone because of an air conditioning system that did not have to be implemented.